The morning is Thursday, January 7th, 2021. This is Social Sciences. I'm instructor, Mr. Townsend. All right, so good morning, folks. I'm going to start off with a poll. Give me 1 second. Okay, so I put a poll up for you guys. So you can just respond to that. I've had one person respond, and the rest of you guys look at that poll and please respond. The question is, should the law be applied equally to all people? Meadow, can you vote? Relisha, Amir, can you vote, please? Thank you. I still need 2 people to vote. If you voted, could you put a thumbs up in your share? I know who voted and who didn't. Thank you, Relisha. Darian, we're doing a poll. Quay, are you back with us?
Yeah, I did it.
Okay. Amir, can you vote, please? And Darian and Meadow.
I did it.
Okay. Darian, can you see the poll? Who else came in? Is it Lama? Am I saying that right? Lama, am I saying your name right? There's a poll on the screen about the law being applied equally to all people. If you could respond to that. Anyone who's not responded to the poll, please respond to it. I want to take it down here in a second. I only had 3 of 6 people vote. All you have to do is click on one of the answers there. Yes, no, depends, or I don't know. All right, I don't waste too much time on this, so share results. And out of the 3 people that voted, the consensus looks like should the law be applied equally to all people? Seems to be yes. Should be is the overwhelming answer. So why do I ask this question this morning? What is the purpose of me answering this question? Ahmad, welcome. Isaac, welcome.
It's good.
Doing all right. Trying to survive democracy like everyone else this morning. I don't know if we're going to spend today talking about a current event because I just felt like it was too important for being social sciences for you guys not to take some time to really understand what happened yesterday. So let me just pull up my PowerPoint. We're going to kind of slowly digest this because it's quite a bit. Okay. Can you guys see my screen now here?
Yeah.
It says African American Studies, but this applies. This is my lesson for both classes, so don't be confused. Okay, so the first, I have an agenda here. I want to go over Summit first for a few minutes and our checkpoints for this class. Is there anyone who needs codes for Summit or is not registered on Summit at this point? Please let me know so I can email you the code for the class. So if there's anybody in class right now that does not have or is not connected to Summit through the code, please send me a message in the chat so I can take care of giving you the code. It doesn't have to be public. If you're a little bit behind, you can go ahead and send me a chat and say, I need the code for this class. Okay, let's look at checkpoint 1 and checkpoint 2. Let me go to Summit real quick. All right, so for this class, you should have two. So at this point, you should have two checkpoints that were due. Over the break, I had asked for you guys to try to complete both of those in your announcement section. So let me go over to this and share this with you. I don't know why this is coming up. A second here. All right. So for your checkpoints number 1 and 2, if you go to Summit, I had placed here before we left, right before the day we left for break, I had put an announcement up about doing both your checkpoints 1 and 2 over the break. So let's review what those checkpoints are. That way, if anybody has any questions about the checkpoints or what they missed, at 1 o'clock, I have lab. We can meet then and discuss any questions that you have. So I'm going to try to put just a random one up here. So celebrities giving back. I remember our theme has been celebrity. So I see a couple of people have Meadow. I see you have work there that needs feedback. I will take care of that. Let's see. So our checkpoint one was just really we're supposed to list an athlete or celebrity and write the ways that they gave back to their communities, philanthropy or any type of social changes that they've made, whether they've given money to charities to help with um, women and children, whether they've set up foundations. All of those things are considered to be ways to give back. That is in checkpoint. I mean, the checkpoint number one is in a PowerPoint. If you need that PowerPoint, please let me know and I can send that to you. Checkpoint two was a little bit different. Let me show you the example that I wanted you to have for checkpoint two. Give me a second here. I think this is it. Okay, so checkpoint two and checkpoint three in the same spot. So let's look at checkpoint two, and then I'll tell you what three is going to be. So this was checkpoint number two. If I have any students that did not get done checkpoint number two, once again, you're going to have to let me know in chat that you didn't get checkpoint number two done, or if you don't understand it, you need some feedback, please, you have to let me know.
Mr. Taylor, my fault. Hold up. This for this year?
Yeah, this is for this unit. Checkpoint number two has been up for.
Hold on, I'm confused because my checkpoint. I thought checkpoint number two was something else.
Besides what you're seeing on the screen?
Yeah, I thought we was talking about what is abolitionists and all that.
Oh, sweet. That's for African American studies. This is social sciences.
Yeah, I'm supposed to wait. Hold on, I'm confused because I got you for African American history.
Yeah, that is on. Let me see. Hold on.
That's today, Monday and Thursdays.
Yeah, hold on a second. Yeah, I'm just trying to make sure you're in the right spot here.
Yeah, I got you for African American history too.
Okay.
I thought it was today.
What's today?
Today, Thursday.
Oh, you're right. I'm wrong. Okay. Well, that makes sense. Let me see. Did I even send out the right one? I sure didn't. Monday, Thursday. You know what? Tuesdays, Thursdays. So that's Monday. That's not the right one. This is Monday, Thursday at 11:30. That's social sciences. So this has to be mine. Okay, I apologize. This is African American Studies. My fault. I don't know where I got that information from there. Seeing social sciences, 9:30 to 10:25. T's and F. That I guess that's Tuesdays and Fridays. So yeah, I apologize. You guys are in the right spot here if you're here for African American Studies. Because yeah, Darion, Ahmad, Quay, Relisha, Amir. Okay, then I gotta look at the wrong. Looking at the wrong one then. All right, so let me go back to, well, sorry about that. Go back to African American studies. Okay, so our first, let me see what we got here. So our first checkpoint was Jim Crow laws. And our second, like you said, our second one would have been on abolitionists. So I think your third one is going to be the 68 games, the 1968 games, when they held up the fist. That will be your third checkpoint. Yes. Okay. So the second one was abolitionist, naming an abolitionist, and defending John Brown for against his actions. Now, am I in the right spot here? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about the confusion. So those are our two checkpoints. Our third checkpoint will come from, I actually have it up on the Google Drive, so let me pull that up. I sent it out to a student yesterday. I didn't get to post it yet. And our final product's going to be like, you're going to, next week, we're going to talk about different social movements, women's liberation, gay liberation, voting, suffrage for women, suffrage for ethnic groups, things like that. And you're going to do a kind of a presentation or a paper on one of the social groups as your final product. Okay, so let's talk about what we're going to talk about today. So did anyone see what happened in the Capitol yesterday? What happened in Washington, D.C. yesterday?
They was being destructive. That's what it was. They was being real freaking destructive.
Okay. Let me get this up, my thing up here. I can't seem to get this up here, right? Here we go. So Quay said they were being destructive. Okay. So yesterday, because I teach history, I felt like we couldn't go past today without discussing what happened. I just felt like it was too important to ignore. So your summit, your checkpoint reviews, if anybody has any questions with that, like I said, the folks that may have not been in class, how you doing, Sammy? For those folks that may have not made it to class or have any questions about what they've missed in class, feel free to contact me either through the chat, Google Hangouts. You can even send me messages on Summit. There's a way to do that. But if worst comes to worst, this is my cell phone number. Mr. Townsend stays up pretty late most nights. I'm up to like 12, 1. So you can call me if you have any problems or if you have any concerns with your schoolwork. Feel free to get a hold of me. Okay. So we're going to do a current events today. And that's the storming of the U.S. Capitol building yesterday. Like Quay said, they were, being destructive. We haven't seen anything like this since 1814 in this country. So I'm going to spend most of the class talking about civil insurrection and the peaceful transfer of power in the United States. We're going to take a side. We're going to defend it. We're going to take a position on this, and we're going to defend it. And hopefully by the time we're done with this class, you'll be able to explain to me the peaceful process of transfer and protest in this country, the peaceful transfer of political power. Oops. We're going to watch, for those that did not see what happened yesterday, we're going to, just for Summit, Checkpoints Lab, I just need to know that anyone have any issues being able to log on the Summit, did any codes need, review of any checkpoints 1 through 3, your introduction of your final product, and just to let you know that every day at 1 p.m., the lab is open. The lab is the same exact code that you use for class. If you come on between 1 and 3 p.m., most of the time my camera is off, but if you yell my name for those who have come to lab, just say Mr. Townsend, and I'll pick up and help you. Okay? So I just wanted to put a quote for today before we got started for more of a morning meeting. I like this quote here. It says, don't let yesterday take up too much of today. What do you think the writer of that quote was trying to get across? Don't let yesterday take up too much of today.
Like, if something bad happened yesterday, don't let it affect today. Or like, if you're going through something, don't let it affect all your days, I guess.
Good. Thank you, Relisha. It means, I mean, everybody interprets a little bit. But yes, don't let what happened yesterday carry into the next day, or carry with you and let it be a burden for yourselves. And the reason I chose this quote is because yesterday was a momentous, well, not momentous, it was kind of a unfortunate event that took place in our nation's capital. So we're going to look at some video of what happened. We're going to discuss.
Well, I also wanted to add to that.
Go ahead, Naeem.
I also think that means like don't stop yourself or don't let anybody stop you from accomplishing your goal or your like achievement or progress.
Good. So don't let anybody stop your progress or your achievement. The reason that I chose this quote is because of our country today. We are at some really precarious crossroads. I know we have been studying Madam C.J. Walker and some of the things, but I felt like it was too important to skip over what happened yesterday in Washington. So we're going to start with a little bit of background information. Good morning, Miss Kelsey.
Good morning. How's everyone doing? You good today?
Yeah, I got a pretty good crowd today.
Yeah, you got a lot of people. It's great.
So I wanted to start with some, I know this might be a little bit dry for some of you guys, but we're going to get to the topic at hand. But I felt like I needed to give you a little bit of background information on what happens when a president transfers power. Okay. We had an election on November 3rd in this country. And without getting into all the particulars, I don't want to give you a whole lesson on social studies this morning, but I do want you to understand kind of where the idea and the need came from for the transfer of power. So the United States Constitution, the one that says we the people, endowed with our creator with certain inalienable rights, that document was born in the shadow of a monarchy. The people that were here in the colonies at the time, they were under the subjection and the rule of King George III. Okay. And what is a monarchy? Can you define a monarchy? a system of government in which who's in charge in a monarchy? If you need to look it up, go ahead and look it up. Someone look up the word monarchy. Or if you know what, Gia, welcome. If you know what a monarchy is, go ahead and just tell me what it is. Okay, I got some.
It's a form of government which, hold up. It's a form of government with a monarch at the head.
Okay, good.
That's right.
Yep, excellent. And a monarch is either a king or a queen, so that's royalty. So before the United States began, we were a colony of England, and England had a royal system in place, which means the transfer of power would just go from either the king to the incoming queen, or the queen to the prince. It's a feudal system. It's an ancient system that's been around for a long time. So the king, believe it or not, the United States was founded. The United States Revolution really started because of a 3% tax increase on tea. We've heard of the Boston Tea Party before. And so the Constitution was needed because of the Articles of Confederation. There's an article here about the Constitution being nothing less than a miracle. I summed it up for you, so you don't have to read the entire article if you don't want to. But there was 55 delegates right here in Philadelphia. They convened 1788, 1789. And they signed the Constitution. And the Constitution gave us certain powers, certain rights as citizens. It also gave us certain limitations as citizens. So the delegates, they were aware of the European Wars of Rebellion, the English Civil War, and the Glorious Revolution, not to mention the fall of the Roman Empire. There was good enough reason to be skeptical of the ability of a diverse political community to sustain itself through internal conflict, which means they're saying that democracy at this point in 1789, 1776 to 1789, it didn't have a good track record. Let's put it that way. And this country was more or less, it still is to me, it's kind of a social experiment. Could we take this form of government now called democracy? We have democracy in this country. We actually have a direct representational democracy, which means the people choose their leaders and their representatives in a direct form. And the direct form in this country is the act of voting. So our direct participation in a democracy in the United States of America comes from our ability to vote for a candidate of our choice. Did any of the students here, any of you guys vote in November?
Yeah.
You did? Okay. Now, I'm not going to ask which candidate you voted for. I probably have a pretty good idea. But when you're voting, you are taking part in the democratic process. You are saying, as a citizen of a sovereign nation, as a citizen of the United States of America, I am flexing my political power by voting for the candidate of my choice. We have two forms of how the president becomes the president. I want to do factions. I think I'll go back to factions in a second here. So the founders of this government, who's the father of the Constitution? Anyone know? The father of the Constitution? Who's the Constitution's baby daddy? Anybody know? Come
What'd you
on.
say?
I said, who is the Constitution's baby daddy?
The white man.
Well, you're not wrong. James Madison. James Madison was the father of Constitution. Him and this guy right here, Thomas Jefferson, Mr. Franklin himself, a couple of the fathers of the Constitution. They came up with this idea of democracy. It's not a new idea. It actually comes from the Greeks and the Romans. It has been around for a couple hundred years, maybe 1,000 years. So they knew of the Peloponnesian Wars. They knew of the fall of the Roman Empire. They had seen these Roman and English wars of attrition. Now, why do I bring all that up? That's dry. That's history. Because our founders, particularly Madison, he wrote some documents called the Federalist Papers. And in the Federalist Papers, he warned about the idea of factions. And he said that the worst enemy of, I'm sorry, someone's weed whacking behind me. It's driving me crazy. The biggest enemy of pure democracy is factions, is the separation of people into these groups of either ideological, political, or identity thoughts. And he said that is the biggest threat to our democracy. You can find this. I know you'll rush out to find the Federalist Papers after I tell you this, and you'll jump to number 10. I think there's 93 of them. So if you're really interested in a long read, the Federalist Papers are quite dry, but they're quite informative. But he feared that factions would take place in the side of democracy. And the fear was if you had a majority, that it would always oppress the minority. So in this country right now, do we have a majority and minority political balance? Is there one group of people that are larger than others? Is there more representation from one side than another? I can't see my chat.
Can I put my input real quick? And then I'm going to stop talking.
Go ahead.
Because, say the question again. I heard half of it.
I was asking right now, I'm talking about factions. I'm talking about groups. Right now in this country, I'll change the question. What are the two major groups right now, or great factions politically, that are at each other necks in this country right now? What's the major two groups?
Republican, right?
Republicans and what's the other group?
Democrat, right?
You just said it. Say it again.
I heard you. So Republicans and Democrats. Those are our two major factions right now in the United States. I'm sure over the last 4 years, if you have social media, I know some people don't pay attention to it at all. Some younger people don't pay attention to it at all. So let me see. I have this on here for a reason. Give me 1 second. I think this is a short video. Let's see. Okay, that didn't help.
Hello, APers. This is a quick review of Federalist 10 and then Federalist 51, which we talked about in class. So I'll go over
Okay. So let me share this with you real quick. This is just a summary of Federalist 10, the document that I was talking about that was written by James Madison. We'll take about 4 minutes to look at this, okay?
This with you. The ideas at the end is that you to be able to understand what a faction is and understand the problems that factions create, and then what our founders thought about the new Constitution, how it would help control them, and how basically a republic helps safeguard against them. Keep in mind that Federalist 10 is written by James Madison, yeah, we'll go from there. So a few things in context. You need to understand that our founders, their initial beliefs about democracy, or at least Madison and the other Federalists, was that they have been a lot of past mistakes. Typically, the idea being that democracies have been too democratic, right? Ancient Greece falls, Rome is susceptible to corruption, Caesar becomes an emperor, and Madison basically summarizes it, talks about democracies being short in their lives as they have been violent in their deaths. It's an experiment that never worked, and it didn't work under the Articles of Confederation either. So we're talking about what is a faction, how are they formed, and then what's the chief cause of factions. A faction is a group of citizens, right, as Madison puts it, that could be either a majority or a minority, and they're united by some kind of passion or interest. But he points out that the most common creator of factions is an unequal distribution of property, right, the rich versus the poor, so to say. And these factions are dangerous because they're part of human nature, right? People are by nature, according to Madison, selfish and biased. Their emotion, they're unreasonable sometimes. And anytime you get in a group, it simply amplifies that tendency, which is going to make people more dangerous, make factions more dangerous. He points out that under our current Articles of Confederation, even the most virtuous citizens are saying that the public good is being disregarded in the conflict of rival parties. And he points out also that when this faction gains power, it's very likely to only pursue its own interests, to trample the rights of others, to ignore the public good. So clearly, according to Madison, factions are bad things. So what can be done to remedy them? He points out two possibilities. You can either control the causes of factions, or you can control the effects of factions. And throughout the essay, he talks about the causes of factions and how they can be controlled. And he points out that one of the things we could do is we could destroy the freedom that allows factions to exist. Right? But he points out that this is worse than the disease. I talked about in class that if you came to me with a paper cut on your finger and claimed that it was hurting, and I just cut off your hand so that the paper cut would go away, that would not be a good solution. The causes would be, or the cure would be worse than the disease. Right? He talks about how liberty is to a faction as what air is to fire. Right? If you're afraid of being burned in a fire, so you get rid of all the air, you're going to die. You need air to breathe. And if you get rid of liberty just because you're afraid of factions, then that goes against everything we fought for in the Revolutionary War. The other way you can get rid of the causes of factions is by making everyone have equal passions, right? Where everyone's the same and there's no difference. And these different opinions, he says, though, will always exist as long as people are free and the self-love exists. So that doesn't work either. It's inherent in human nature to create factions. So the only way that we can control them is by controlling their effects. So the rest of the essay goes on to try and make a statement about which type of government would be best at controlling the effects of factions. Right? One thing that's key to understand this is the idea of between a minority and a majority faction. Right? Minority factions exist when less than a majority desire something, right? And they're easy to control, right? Majority rule can easily control a minority faction. But the real problem exists when there's a majority faction, right? When they have a majority of the votes and they can impose their will and trample the rights of minorities. So what government can best control a majority faction? The first government that he talks about is a pure democracy. In class, we call it a direct democracy. And he points out that there are always spectacles of turbulence and contention. This is when the people are in direct control in a small government situation, where people are in direct control in making decisions. And he says that these governments have been as short in their lives as they have been violent in their deaths. They've never worked. Shays Rebellion, that picture down here at the bottom, it's a classic example of what can happen when there's too much democracy, where the debtors, the poor, rise up and eat the rich. He talks about small republics, right? And a republic being where citizens elect leaders to make decisions for them. But he points out that you're still going to find more frequent majority factions in a small republic, right? The smaller the number of individuals, the more likely that a majority is going to form, and they can.
Okay, that's all I wanted to steal out of there. This idea of factions comes from Federalist 10, and that even after the Constitution, the framers spoke out about the dangers of faction. So that's what that little video was on. And it says that people are in a democracy because we have freedom. We're opinionated, we're selfish, we're biased, we become unreasonable. The reason that in Federalist 10, Madison says liberty is to faction what air is to fire. He argued that a large representative democracy, which we are, direct representative democracy, was the best way to counter groups of citizens united and actuated by some common impulse of passion, interest, adverse to the rights of the citizens or to the permanent and arrogant interests of the community. George Washington, in his farewell address, warned of the baneful effects of a faction, a fire not to be quenched. He said, it demands a uniform diligence to present its bursting into a flame, lest instead of warning, it should consume. So our Constitution gives us the right to protest. I spelled insurrection wrong here. Gives us the right to protest. We have seen this in the news for the last year or two about people protesting. Don't protest this way, don't take a knee, don't do this, don't burn a flag, don't say Black Lives Matter, just don't, basically. Even though you have the right to do that, our national response has been, especially from one faction. So now that you understand what a faction is, there's a majority and a minority. In this situation, for those who voted, the group that was seen as the minority going in, we weren't the incumbents, we weren't the ones who were there, were the Democrats. As of yesterday, the Democrats have flipped the Senate to their control. We won 2 runoffs in Georgia, and with Kamala Harris being the new vice president, she would be that tiebreaker for that 51st vote anytime legislation goes through. So we're in a much better position. So what am I blabbling about? What happened yesterday? I think I have a couple things up here. Let's look at what happened in Washington yesterday. I know I have it up. Excuse me. Okay. So yesterday was supposed to be the official certification, and it did happen, of Joe Biden's presidency. At the same time, the 45th president of the United States decided to have a competing rally. At that rally, he got his supporters nice and riled up and told them to take over the Capitol building by force. To put this in context, the last time that the White House or Capitol building was stormed by force was 1814, the War of 1812, and that was the British. So this is a very momentous occurrence. So let's see what's happened so we get some feedback, okay?
We will not silence your voices. We're not going to let it happen. Conviction that President Trump should remain president. I share that conviction. The law matters with us. I share that conviction. But the law matters.
on the steps of the backside of the Capitol. We're seeing protesters overcome the police. The police are now running back into the Capitol building. We have cheers from the protesters that are watching behind the scenes. This is incredible.
We were just told that there has been tear gas in the rotunda, and we're being instructed to each of us get gas masks that are under our seats. And tactical vehicles are pulling up to the Capitol.
You all to know that I'm safe. This is such a sad day in America. We're sequestered in a room till we're safe. The protesters are still in the building. I just want to say, stay strong. And I don't know what to say about today, but this could never happen again.
This afternoon, I announced a citywide curfew for the District of Columbia beginning at 6 p.m. this evening, going until 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. The behavior that we are witnessing is shameful, unpatriotic, and above all, it is unlawful. Anyone who has engaged in these activities, continues to engage in these activities, will be held accountable. There will be law and order, and this behavior will not be tolerated.
But just remember this, you're stronger, you're smarter, you got more going than anybody, and they try and demean everybody having to do with us, and you're the real people, you're the people that built this nation. You're not the people.
Okay.
Part of this crowd, while largely peaceful.
And Fox News goes right to spin mode. Okay. So I know that's a lot to take in there. Let me get my screen back here. I had a couple more videos for you guys, but I think that one was probably the most encompassing of the craziness that went on yesterday. So I have some questions, and I'm going to get some feedback before we go here for you guys. I'm trying to get my screen back, sorry. Okay. So a group of political supporters of the 45th President of the United States stormed the Capitol building. And I had some questions for you guys about that. So we talked about the factions, about the fact that if there was a majority, that they would oppress the minority. The majority in this case has now become the minority. And you see the rioting. We've heard for so many months and years now about Black Lives Matter being a terrorist organization, the rioting. Why can't they do it peacefully? Why can't they do it lawfully? Why can't they do it under the law? And I've seen in this video, I've seen people climbing up the walls of the Capitol building. There was actually a woman who was shot in the Capitol. She died. I think the official death toll, if I'm correct, was 4 people died yesterday. Over 150 injured. This has not happened since 1811. So my question, I guess, to relate this to African American studies: A, how do you think that the police would have reacted if those protesters were black or brown?
We would have got shot. Like, I don't want to hear none of that tear gas crap they was doing, that Mason BS. We wouldn't have got none of that. Like, that would have been black people, bro. I swear for God, we would have been got killed. We would have got arrested. We would have got the most dumb. We would have got the most.
You
But
got a point.
mother have can climb up walls like they freaking gorillas and monkeys, but they ain't being called monkeys. They not being called, oh, they got mental issues. I don't want to hear none of that. That's BS.
Mind you, it's a whole group of people. Like, it's a whole group of people. And cops is shooting single black people for doing one thing or for having one weapon. Like, they shot that man up for having a knife. But people out there breaking stuff and setting fires and all that, and they just getting maced and fire gas and tear gas thrown at them. Like, that's not real consequences. Like, we would have been, like she said, in somebody's cell, probably dead by now. Like, we would not have made it that far. Like, real rape. Like
how did y'all even get past security? If that was us, we would have got killed. They would have called the SWAT. Where was the SWAT called at? And they called them when they came inside the building. By then, we would have been dead. Like they tweeting like, you're very immature. For him to be old, you're very immature. What the frick is you tweeting for, bro? What you tweeting for? Like, it's unnecessary for you to be tweeting. You're like 80. You about to die soon anyway. So what you tweeting for? Like, this shit not cool.
Well, I mean, Quay, actually, believe it or not, for the first time, his Twitter account has been suspended. They actually...
But look, it came this far for this man Twitter to be shut down. Mm-hmm. Like, what? When Obama was in office, this never happened.
No, it did not. It never happened. Quay, Relisha, two points that you want to make up. First off, the most shocking point was watching the police back up. I have a photo. I don't know where it's at now, but look at the photo from when Black Lives Matter protested in Washington. I mean, there was armed to the teeth guards across every single step. Every 4 feet, there was an armed guard. And this was only for a couple people. Quay, you hit it on the head. How'd they get that far? Yes, the police opened some. Ms. Kelsey said police actually opened gates for some people. And this was a group who says police lives matter. You know, the blue, what is that? The thin blue line. Police are, they're important. We need to respect our local police. But yesterday, that went out the door. What I wanted to teach you is this was an attempt at a coup. You can say from the French word coup d'etat, but we're not going to do all that. Simply, it was an attempt at a coup. And a coup is an attempt to transfer power without the correct political processes. I know we don't know who Mussolini is. We may know who Mussolini is. But Mussolini was an Italian dictator who was friends with Hitler, and he had a group called the Black Hand. And they literally stormed Parliament and took over the country in like a day. Where is all the arguments today about why aren't they being called thugs? Why aren't they being called animals? Why aren't these group of protests, well, beyond protesters, because we were supposed to do the First Amendment, but peaceful protests in assembly. Why did this group not be called thugs and animals? Why was not live rounds used to keep these people back? I mean, this is not just... Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Because they're white.
Because they are white people?
Huh?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think
That's
that...
what I think.
I believe that was the definition of white privilege on display. That you could... This is not just a community. We're not talking about... And rioting and destroying property in all senses is wrong. but this is our federal buildings. This is not the neighborhood store. This is not a Super Fresh. This is not a CVS. This is our national buildings. Tear gas. There's pictures of people in that Nancy Pelosi's office, hillbillies, if you use that term. I don't know what other term to use. Sorry if it's offensive, but people who from the South, literally with their feet up in Nancy Pelosi's office, who is the who is the Speaker of the House. I mean, these are very prominent people. And my thought would be is, what if one of those people had a bomb? Do you realize that the core representation of our government was in one room yesterday? If they let off one bomb in there, our system of government as we know it yesterday stops. This is the fear, this opinions, this selfishness, this bias, this unreasonable thinking that we are right beyond all means. Our faction is correct. Your faction is wrong. It doesn't help if you heard on the megaphone, while they were committing crimes, they were being cheered on by the President of the United States himself. You're not the bad guys. You're the good guys. But the smashing of the windows, the destruction of property, the climbing of walls, and even the death of a woman. And it goes back to democracies are short as their lives, that they have been violent in their deaths. This is why democracies haven't lasted, because we've had people who feel like it's their right to push their other views on other people. And not only now, now it's gone into civil insurrection. This is what we call civil insurrection. We're at the point where this faction and this group has decided that they don't even care, to the point where you saw it. I didn't have to make it up. You saw how they stormed the Capitol building in an attempted coup. This was an attempted coup of power. My opinion politically should be that Trump should be immediately impeached. Immediately. He should be removed from office immediately. Now, I don't have that power to do that. Somebody said chat. Yeah, absolutely, Tammy. He said that some of the cops were letting slide and taking pictures with them because some of them are Trump supporters themselves. And so if those are in law enforcement are part of the faction, it doesn't help. It's like going to court in a small town where everybody's in the Klan. The judge is in the Klan, the cop is in the Klan, the defendant's in the Klan. They're going to take care of each other. So yeah, Sammy, that's a valid point. I wish we had a little bit more time because it's actually starting to get to a decent conversation about this. But this attempted coup will go down in history. One of the things about being a history teacher is that history happens every day. And we were going to discuss some of the things from the past about Black history, but I really felt like for both my classes today that it was really important that we studied and understood what took place in Washington yesterday, why it was taking place, and how we can stop this from happening in the future. I'm going to be jumping back on MSNBC here soon to find out what's going on right now in the Capitol. But the point of all this was to try to stop the certification of Joe Biden as president. I think it was about 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning last night. They finally did confirm Joe Biden as president. So there's nothing more that they can do. And I wouldn't be surprised if DC looks like a war zone today. Probably lots of things cut off. So I just want you guys to think, what if it was the other way around? What if this was a group of Indians, Native Americans?
Here he is.
I dropped out.
We can't hear. There you go.
Sorry, I don't know what happened. My